Welcome back to The Kicker. Today we are talking about the No Kings protest in Forsyth County, the end of the Georgia legislative session, and there's still no resolution for what kind of ballots we will be voting with in November. My name is Becky Woomer. I'm the first vice chair of the Forsyth County Democrats.
I'm Jessica Fleming. I'm a former school board candidate here in Forsyth County. So I am so bummed because I missed the No Kings protest. I'm having serious FOMO, so I'm really excited to talk to you today to hear all about it. The pictures looked amazing. Tell me what it was like to be there.
It was fantastic. It was in the southern part of the county where we've rallied and protested before. It was at the intersection of 141 and McGinnis Ferry, so right where Forsyth County meets Fulton County. And I'd say it was at least 2,000 people there. It felt as about the same size as the October event to me, and the energy was incredible. I think that that's a big thing that draws people to those events. I mean, there's a lot that they want to protest against, but there's also something they want to gather for, and it's this sense of, like, joy and connection and being
Hmm.
with like-minded folks.
Hmm.
This was notable because it was the first event organized by the new Indivisible chapter of Indivisible Forsyth,
Hmm.
and, they had a lot of partners, but they did a fantastic job. Connect the Dots participated. The North Fulton Dems were there. The Johns Creek Progressives all attended. Another new thing was that the Forsyth County Dems had a table there. Um, and our candidates had literature there because now we have new candidates since the last No Kings. And this was really great because it gave people who were walking up kind of a natural anchor point, and we had fantastic volunteers there, just speaking to people, giving them info, gathering their contact info, helping them, like, get in touch or stay in touch. We're continuing to get more sophisticated. Our safety marshals had earpieces,
Fancy.
so we didn't have to run across the street, to carry messages anymore. But it was just a great event, and there was great news coverage of it by the Forsyth County News, and great pictures. And in the days afterward, a lot of local heads were exploding on local Facebook pages.
Yeah, I saw those negative comments on Facebook too, on the Forsyth County news story.
Mhm.
And you can just tell that people are scared and uncomfortable, the Republicans. And I understand why, because as much as they say it doesn't matter, there are more people that are going out this is their first step, their first entry point. A lot of times I've been to the other protests and there is some time in between. You're talking to other people. Someone's like, hey, I go to the Dems meetings. You should come. I go to the Dems happy hour. Like there is connections being made. And this is someone's entry point into the world of the Democrats, and this will translate into voting, I believe. And we've seen that with all of the special election seats that we've won this year. So I'm very hopeful, and I'm glad it was such a great event.
It was fantastic, and I'm sure there's more to come, and the movement grows. Let's see what else is going on. Last night was Sine Die in the Georgia legislature. All good things must come to an end, right? Now, a reminder, Sine Die is the last day of the legislative session. It literally means without a date in Latin, so that it means it's the day they close session with no date to return. And if bills manage to pass by when they closed session last night, Governor Kemp can either sign them into law, he can veto them, or he can let them sit for 40 days and they still become law. So, Jessica, did you stay up late for Sine Die? It's like
I
waiting
did
for the great
not.
pumpkin.
Yes, I did not. I did open the AJC this morning, my AJC app, to look and see like what happened. There were definitely some that I was keeping an eye on, wanted to see what happened. I saw this morning that Georgia Equality posted a celebratory post about no LGBTQ plus bills, bills that are detrimental to that population were passed. And I was very happy to see that because I know Greg Dolezal, who's a senator from Forsyth, who is running for lieutenant governor. That's one of his big passions, is limiting the rights of LGBTQ plus people. So very happy to see that. Another bill that I was tracking was the library bill, which is SB 74. And it seems to have died in committee. It first passed the House, it went through the Senate, and then it was back in a House committee, and it did not. So if they want to ban books and they'll have to reintroduce it next year and go through the process from day one. So I was very happy about that.
So that was its second year, right? This is the second year of a biennial session. It
Mhm.
didn't make it, so it loses whatever progress it had.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
anything that did not pass this
Mhm.
year all has to be reintroduced next year and go through from square one, basically.
There were some other good things that happened. It wasn't just stopping bad bills. What else?
There's a great literacy bill focusing on K through third grade education. So tons of money is going to be poured into literacy. We talked about another time how our literacy rates are really low in Georgia. So
Mhm.
very excited about that. I think all the elementary schools are beginning literacy coaches. And yeah, that's just one that was nice to see bipartisan agreement on making sure our students can read and really on that like phonics curriculum.
Mhm. Another education-related, bill that I was really glad about was the DREAMS Scholarship Act. That was a needs-based scholarship, um, endowment that this bill created, and it would take effect next academic year, so 26-27, and it would give eligible students up to $3,000 a year. I think it's a great augmentation to the Hope Scholarship Program, and this is exactly the kind of investment in Georgians we need to be doing and using some of that surplus for.
That's
That's a
great.
good thing. Mhm.
Um,
Some ones that have me scratching my head,
yeah.
well, and, it's good that it didn't happen, but the bill that would have protected Confederate monuments and made it possible to sue people who harmed Confederate monuments,
Yeah.
that did not make it.
But
However
2 days before the last day of the legislative session, they spent 90 minutes with this, like, on the floor of the House, which is just, like, you're on this ticking clock of trying to get done real priorities for people, and they're focusing on this. Todd Jones from House District 25 here in Forsyth County, he voted to protect these Confederate monuments, which is something everyone should remember, that this is something that he focused on, a very partisan issue. And then Dr. Au, or Representative Michelle Au from Johns Creek, posted in her newsletter that it's very interesting that this is the second time the Republicans who control the House and the Senate brought something to the floor that did not pass. And normally they know that they have enough votes. And, she really hypothesized that it's because some people knew that they couldn't vote for this in an election year, that it would look bad. And it kind of shows that Republicans don't necessarily have as much power as they think they do.
Mhm.
And that kind of
Mhm.
brings me to Todd Jones. So the fact that he did vote for this, um, the day of the heartbeat bill, he didn't want to be associated with that and stayed home. Now he's just brazenly supporting anything that President Trump would like and seems to have moved much further to the right.
Yeah, and it's a good thing to note here that right now in this primary season, we have 2 excellent Democrats,
Mhm.
running to be our nominee for House District
Yeah.
25 to oppose Todd, this year. So, another one that has me alarmed that I feel like wasn't on people's radar until
Yeah.
very lately was House Bill 369. This started life as a food truck bill. Remember we talked about zombie bills?
Yeah.
This started life as a bill about food trucks, but it became a bill that makes municipal races in 5 counties, Fulton, Cobb, DeKalb, Gwinnett, and Clayton counties, that makes municipal races nonpartisan. So
And those
people
counties
running
tend to go,
those
blue
are blue
or
counties,
yeah,
Jessica, if you're
mhm,
keeping score at
yeah,
home. And this targets county commissioner elections, district attorney, and other court offices like solicitor, those kinds of county clerks.
mhm,
It's also notable that there are 5 Black women district attorneys in those counties, including Fani Willis, who
mhm.
is Trump's #1 target and Greg Dolezal's favorite
Yeah, I
person to
know.
talk about. So the bill would mean that people running in those races would run without an R or a D by their names. Um, Lots of voting rights advocates are already calling on Kemp to veto this bill because it's definitely illegal according to the state constitution, and it's pretty nakedly political. it basically seeks to confuse voters about, who would vote for party affiliation or try to suss out what candidates stand for. Charlie Bailey, the chair of the Democratic
Yeah.
Party of Georgia, says they should all be embarrassed about it. That changing races in 5 counties and leaving the other 154 counties to vote the same way is silly. So Brian Kemp says he hasn't looked at it yet, which I feel like it means he's amenable to pressure. Um, but to me, it's just they sense that in these, they just can't get a foothold. These are the sort of blue powerhouses of strong Democratic voting, and they've thought of this new plan to try to chip away at that strength.
I agree, it's
Um,
embarrassing, the fact that they're singling out these 5 places. So it's like, "Okay, let's do that here in Forsyth." How do you feel about that? I mean, it's pretty stunning that
mhm,
that's
mhm.
something that this could be seen as, like, they think it's a legitimate thing and to pass.
Mhm. So in the
Um,
next couple of weeks, we'll just have to see if Kemp says anything else about it, but it also could badly backfire on them, which I think they know. So,
yeah,
um, speaking of big old messes,
yeah.
what did not get resolved
Yeah.
last
So
night in Sine Die?
they were up until like 1 a.m. doing all this stuff, like closing up the legislative session. However, there was one, this is like they had one job, they had one thing they had to do. And besides passing the budget, and they did not do it. So, to give a little bit of background, 2 years ago, the Georgia legislature passed a law that we can't use QR codes here in Georgia when we're voting. And if you've gone and voted in person, you know that our voting machine spit out a piece of paper with a QR code on it. So basically, this year we will not be able to use those machines. So they were hoping the plan was to pass a bill or a law that would resolve this issue and maybe make this have a longer lead time to figure out what we're doing, not to impact the midterms. But unfortunately, they adjourned without doing that.
Right. So as of July 1st, we're in violation of that law that says QR codes can't be used to tabulate votes, but the Dominion voting machines that create our ballots are also mandated in state law.
Yeah.
So we come into this actual legal contradiction. So there's already talk, right, about a special session being called to deal with it?
Yeah, exactly. They might have to have a special session. I don't know exactly how that works. It would have to be after the primaries, but then before, the elections in November.
Mhm.
And once they get in there, it's not like, oh, it's this, we're just going to work on this little thing. They could do some other large overhaul. And then
Mhm.
whenever they actually have that session, this has to be resolved before early voting and before, the November elections.
Right. And early
I think
voting in the
that's Republicans
primaries.
and Democrats, like everybody, you have to vote for everybody, no matter
Yes.
what side you're on.
And having been a poll worker and having attended the county board of elections meetings for years, my thoughts go to those 159 county election supervisors who are begging their lawmakers, just tell us what the plan is. Just tell us what to do so we can train our people on new equipment. It's not simple, it's not simple to roll that out. They're hiring hundreds of poll workers. It costs an untold amount of money. Early voting in the primaries starts here in Forsyth in 3 weeks, just over 3 weeks. So I think that it was it just really showed the extent to which they created a problem out of a non-existent problem. Um, this all came about out of the sort of paranoid lie that there was fraud in Georgia elections, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. That this was a non existent problem. It's been looked into. There wasn't fraud in the election, and they are creating a solution in air quotes to the problem, but it actually is causing a huge problem now. Now, this is an actual legal issue. And as you said,
Yeah.
this is going to cause problems for the election officials.
Mhm.
There might have to be like hand counting of ballots. I mean, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you want to know who won like as quickly as possible and not
Mhm.
have things in limbo. And that's what right now there's no plan whatsoever.
Mhm. And, as far as Sarah Draper said, they abdicated their responsibility,
Yeah.
the Republicans. And I think that, I mean, not to sound conspiratorial, but a theory I have is that Burt Jones, who, as the lieutenant governor, presides over the Senate. He's running for governor, of course, with Trump's endorsement. And he now has his hands full parrying attacks from Rick Jackson, also running for governor. I think Burt Jones did not want to preside over a Senate session where they walked back even a bit from this move away from QR codes. So many of these Republicans in the Senate are running for statewide office. None of them has the political will to fix this problem, a problem they created again to please Trump. They're all scared, and now we are in this mess. And this is going to affect voting in our state. So whether they call a special legislative session, I don't know. We did have one of those a couple years ago in the fall of 2023, I think, when a federal judge said that our congressional district maps violated the Voting Rights Act, so they had to call a special session to redraw those. And there hasn't been one since then. I think it would be a really unpopular idea because everyone is tired.
Yeah. And a
But
lot of these people
you
are
know,
running for other offices, and it'll be in the middle of they're in the middle of their campaigns, and that's why
mhm.
there was this period where right now none of them could fundraise, any of these people that are running for, like, different offices and everything, and now that this session is over, it's gonna be a free-for-all. Get ready for the texts from all of these people
I'm not
asking
ready.
for money and everything, but um, that's going to be really messy, I would think, that they're in the
Mhm.
middle of their campaigns and then they need to have this special session as well.
Yeah, I think we should all just take our phones and put them in the freezer.
Yeah.
This is my thought. But
Yeah.
so we'll just have to see what happens. This was, a very storied legislative session, and I'm always left feeling like it could have been worse. Um, Even though we have this mess, like, some good things also happened. And I think you're right to point out, like, signs that the Republican majority knows they're not invincible. Um, and this could be a big year for that. Um, so we shall see. There's a lot of energy
One last
building. We
thing.
saw it at No Kings. Yes.
Yeah. One last thing I was going to mention, and we can talk about this next time, is that there was apparently something passed that would limit the term limits of the Forsyth County commissioners. And that would be something that we can definitely explore in the future, because that will have some big implications and some seats would be opening up.
Yes, absolutely. And our ongoing popcorn popping showdown between our county commissioners and our coming city council. We'll have to
Yeah.
get into that next time.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for this conversation, Jessica. It is great to see you. Thank you all for listening to The Kicker. This is again a podcast by the Forsyth County Democrats. Thank you.